back to another episode of Beyond the Campfire. And today we are traveling down into the depths and deep, dark. I don't even know what else I want to say about this. Yeah, we are traveling to. William, you want to tell us?
Yeah. Tucked away in the Death Valley is an underwater mystery. Um, a place that no one is allowed to explore anymore. So it kind of makes you wonder what they could be hiding. That's right. Today we are traveling to Death Valley in Nevada to the Devil's Hole.
The Devil's Hole. Don't read too much into that.
The Devil's Hole.
But yeah, that is the name of where we will be traveling today. So if you are new to the program, welcome. You can find us you can connect with us on social media at Beyond Campfire, either at Beyond Campfire Podcast or at Beyond Campfire. Just a username, and we're on social media on X, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. So be sure to check us out there. And if you like spooky content and you like hearing a cowboy and an Indian talk about it, we're the podcast for you. So be sure to join us as we, me, Stephen the Indian, and Will the Cowboy, travel through the mysteries and conspiracies of the universe. And today we are taking a dive into the Devil's Hole. That sounded really wrong, but
This is one of those episodes. It's like luckily, I don't think we're gonna have any more innuendo episodes.
We'll see, man. We'll see. At the end of the day, it is good. So
Yeah. So, anyways, the Devil's Hole. It's located on a 40-acre section of the Death Valley. It's called the Ash Meadows. It's an area of desert uplands and Springfield oases designated as a national wildlife refuge in 1984. And this is like kind of right there on the Nevada-California border. So according to the national park website, just to kind of give you some background a little bit about the area that the Devil's Hole's in with Ash Meadows, the national park website states Ash Meadows is the discharge point for a groundwater system extending over 100 miles to the northeast. 30 seeps and springs bring to the surface fossil water, call it fossil water, which entered the groundwater system thousands of years ago. Ash Meadows is home to 26 species of endemic plants and animals, including 3 other endangered fish, 2 of them pupfish, and 7 threatened plants. So, yeah, this is a really cool little area. As we'll learn later on, the government has closed off the Devil's Hole. You're not allowed to go there because, as I said, there's 3 endangered fish there, and one of them is called the Devil's Hole pupfish. It's one of the smallest pupfish, and the government doesn't want people messing with it, so they say they closed off the Devil's Hole.
so they say.
So they say.
Why we want tiny little puffish? Who knows? Who knows? But
is it the tiny pupfish that they're trying to protect, or is there something else down there?
Yes. Well, that's why you guys listen to us. We're here to yap about it and let you know our thoughts, our theories. We dive into the evidence, and here we go. We're getting into it. We're getting into the Devil's Hole today. I'm gonna
it's a great innuendo. Awesome. We love it.
Okay. All right.
So the Devil's Hole, it became part of the Death Valley Park officially in 1952. Since then, divers have tried to map the cave, but here's the problem. They only get to about 500 feet, but the rest is unknown. No one knows truly how deep the hole goes. And the story we have later on, there's a guy that actually did dive, and he thinks he knows about how deep it could be, but it could also be maybe deeper than that. Because this thing is truly a mystery wrapped into this is a mystery episode, but I don't know, man. There's a lot of freaky stuff. This is also could be a conspiracy as well because the government keeping it closed off. Who knows? So to kind of describe it, on its surface, there's a gap in the rock. Some say it's probably about the size of a living room. It'll drop down about 30 feet to a limestone shelf and a hot water pool. Below is a series of tunnels that kind of lead to various caverns.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and to the Infinity Cave. The Infinity Cave is a giant underwater lake that has never been fully mapped. We don't know how deep it goes. We don't even really know where it goes because part of the strange thing about this is, yeah, there have been earthquakes reported in Japan, Chile, and even Indonesia that have caused tsunamis to burst forth from the Devil's Hole. Some have been recorded as being 6-foot waves.
See, so there's this like whole network of things that are going on and that are happening because how is something in like the Nevada, California area
Mm-hmm.
affecting things on the other side of the world?
Like how is Japan's earthquake affecting something that's thousands of miles away?
Right.
It doesn't make sense, you know?
It's one of
Could
those.
there be could that depth inside there actually lead to a massive underwater aquifer that goes all the way to Japan? Who knows? We've never explored it.
And that's where you are. I mean, you got to wonder, right? Like maybe there's a natural phenomena of a very long tunnel leading to boats, but then like a tunnel half like going around the world. How likely is that? Then you got to wonder: is there something supernatural going on? You know?
It really it really is strange. So there have actually been apparently a to kind of get so that's the story of the Devil's Cave or the Devil's Hole. It's this underwater cave that we don't know how deep it goes. It's affected by earthquakes in Japan, Chile, all over the world. Is somehow an earthquake happens over there and it makes a tsunami happen over here. Very strange stuff.
Sure, yeah.
So there have, as we stated, the government has closed this off. They say to protect the fish as well. It's very dangerous for divers. There have been reported cases of divers dying in these caves, mostly because there's air pockets. There's apparently a current inside the cave system. And so people can get kind of pulled in and swept out and then disappear. So
Okay, so
the
safety of divers.
safety divers, yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay. All right.
Um, however, there was one guy who was allowed to dive, um, and his name is Jim Hoyts. Apparently, Jim has dived this cave. He dived it several times in the '60s, and he even wrote an article to the AP News that kind of might have inspired one of the most well-known stories of divers being killed in the cave.
Okay.
And people think that his story had inspired them. So, like I said, Jim Hoyts, dived it several times in the '60s, wrote to the AP News. I even have what he even wrote to the AP News. So basically, he said the AP News, he said, it's beautiful in there. It goes straight down 160 feet like a pipe, then opens into a room. The explorer told reporters in 1965. I've dived to 315 feet. Maybe it's a record. I don't know. Interesting fact to kind of interject there. At the time, that was a record. But at the end of the tube, it opens again into something else. We don't know what the next room is or if it's a room at all. It's like infinity.
Is that? I'm guessing that's where the name Infinity Cave came from.
Yep.
Okay.
So Jim was well known. Like he had dived this cave several times. As you can tell, he got down there and he actually plays a role in helping find these kids that dived in there illegally. And so to kind of talk about it, so there, like I said, there were several people that have gone missing. The most well-known case and the most well-documented one happened in 1965, where 4 teenagers decided to try to swim in the Devil's Hole. So they jumped the fence that the government put up to keep you from going in there.
Sure.
One boy got cold feet, didn't want to go in, so he stayed outside the cave, while the others went to find. So one boy stayed at the top. The other 3 went into the cave and dived. Eventually, they came back to the surface. When they came back to the surface, there was only 2. The third guy was missing.
Oh.
So one of those other 2, he said, "Well, I'm going to go find him." Went back down, and he was never seen again. So this launched a massive hunt for the boys, which led to Jim Hoyts leading this. So Jim Hoyts was like, "All right, I'm gonna lead this search and rescue because
Yeah.
I know because they're like, you know the cave better than anybody, like you know." So I actually found where he did an interview with Inertia. There's this website called Inertia where he did an interview and he talked about the incident. So what I'm fixing to read to you guys is actually from Jim, and this was in his interview with Inertia, talking about the boys that disappeared in 1965. I also led a rescue there in 1965. There were 4 youngsters, teens who climbed the fence. One was a senator's son. 3 went in the water, and one got some sense and said, "I'm not doing it." They said this at night. They did this at night. Once you round that first bend at 90 feet, you don't know what dark is until you go around the bend. There's no reflection down there. The walls are limestone. They look smooth like clouds, but they're rough. Rub your hands against it, and it'll take the skin right off.
Eesh.
So, as in the Newport Harbor Yacht Club giving a presentation on diving, I have 60, 70 people, and a call came in from the federal government. They said, "Are there any air pockets in those caves down there?" And I said, "Yeah." I get over Los Alamitos with my guys in the seaplane. A Grumman Albatross was on the runway, engines running. Next thing you know, we're flying and the hatch isn't even closed. We tried to land in a place called Ash Meadows on the California-Nevada border, but the plane had to come over a mountain and drop over a very short runway. The pilot tried 3, 4 times and he couldn't do it. So we get there from Nellis Air Force Base at daybreak. The media was out in full force. The military, state police, even a big trailer that served food. We had 4 guys. I set up my first team of 2 guys. This is an author's note. One of those guys was a diver and Vegas nightclub singer named Harry Wham, who, unbeknownst to Hoyts, had accompanied Mel Fisher on a failed treasure dive in Cordes Bank in 1957 and will later be murdered by family members in 1981. Kind of crazy stuff.
Okay. That's
And they went in increments with divers at 2 junctions to handle decompression issues. I get down to the lower chambers, and there I found a mask with a snorkel on it and a fin. Later, I found another item from the other diver. But the point is, when you get that deep, you get nitrogen narcosis, basically nitrogen poisoning.
sure. Yeah.
It's a drunken state, and you get lightheaded. Once you get that, it's far more probable that you're going to do something stupid because you feel there's nothing you can't do. The only reason why I was able to make these dives was because I've been training for it for the narcosis. I went to the surface and notified everybody about what we found. It was a very sad, very solemn moment. I said, "I'm going to recover the rest of this equipment, and I'll do one more thing to confirm." So I made one dive to the last little ledge at 325 feet. At that point, the Devil's Hole opens up wide, and I can tell you one thing. I know it goes down to over 900 feet. We once let out 932 feet of cable from that point, and there's a current down there. So how much of the cable was bowed from the current, I don't know, but it's just massive. But down at 325 feet, that's where I found the remainder of some of the gear. Right there, just as big as life. I'm sure that's where the kids wound up in the very far depths. He just kept going down. The guys were never found. The only thing down there now is bones.
Tragic.
So, yeah, so that's the issue is the boys probably got into the deep part, and Jim confirms that this is probably over 900 feet. They dropped down a 932-foot cable, and it was bowing because the currents. Did it reach the bottom? Who knows? So, how deep is the Devil's Hole? Um, yeah, and ever since then, like I said, the government has kind of closed off the hole. They claim it's for protection of a fish, or could they know something we don't know? What is in there? How deep
Well,
is it truly goes? Is it bottomless?
right.
What is the Devil's Hole?
And that's what I want to ask because so far, if you guys have been watching the show for a long time, Will's the one that's more likely to believe in the supernatural and the spooky. I'm a little bit more skeptical. I'm like, hey, if there's another logical explanation, I tend to go towards the logical explanation in another one. So far, this is awful, right? I'm really sad that these couple of teenagers were killed searching through the Devil's Hole. So far, though, I mean, other than tsunamis in Japan potentially affecting this thing, so far I'm like, well, it's a deep hole. It goes hundreds, possibly even thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of feet down. Anybody goes down there, and you have the nitrogen, and you have the water pressure. I'm just like, so far, there's kind of natural explanations for why people would go missing and die there. So I guess, well, maybe you have a few more natural things to explain, but kind of with me and the listeners right now, we're like, well, where's the spookiness? Where's the mystery? Like,
Are you
where's
ready? Are you ready for me to tell you the spookiness, the mystery to this Devil's Hole?
yeah, here we go.
So the Devil's Hole, there's actually Native American stories about the Devil's Hole. Local
Oh,
Shoshone tribes had stories about water babies and a giant named, I'm going to butcher this, Tesoa Apatis, who were said to haunt the depths of the Devil's Hole.
so this is a new thing. This has been talked about for a long time, starting with Native American peoples who believed there were creatures in there.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All right.
And I, like I said, I didn't do a lot of theories because, there's, I didn't really look much into that, but I can tell you another spooky thing. There's a very famous guy who thought the Devil's Hole was. He thought the Devil's Hole might have been a portal to the underworld.
Kind of like the Greek mythologies where people descend into Hades type of deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where basically the Devil's Hole, there's a portal to the underworld. And do you want to take a guess who that guy was?
You said it's a famous guy?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Ozzy Osbourne. Why not? He just passed away.
Charles Manson.
Charles Manson. Wow. Okay.
He would bring his followers to the Devil's Hole and hold rituals and stuff there apparently.
That's crazy. No way.
Because he believed that inside there was a portal to the underworld.
And well, I'd imagine most of our listeners know who Charles Manson is, but for whatever reason, somebody doesn't know. Could you talk a little bit about who Charles Manson is?
Well, Charles Manson was a crazy dude in the '60s who he's responsible for the Manson murders, where he basically had this cult and they murdered some famous people, and then he got arrested.
Yeah, you can't be murdering people.
No, you can't.
Especially your own cult followers. So anyway. I would also take this time to say, don't join a cult.
No.
To the listeners, I know there's some handsome, charismatic cult leaders out there, but don't do it. Don't join them. If Will the Cowboy starts a cult, don't join his cult. If I start a cult, don't join my cult. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
So yeah, I mean, so we have Native American legends, we have theories by crazy guys. I mean, scientists just say it just happens to be a very large aquifer down there, a very large underwater lake. I mean, what do you think?
So far there's enough logical evidence right now for me to lean towards logical explanations. Like it's interesting to me that Charles Manson did rituals there. It's interesting that Native Americans talked about water babies.
Yeah, water babies. They say there's a giant down there.
I'll have you explain that more fully in just a second. But for me, I'm like, okay, well, just because that stuff happened doesn't necessarily mean something supernatural is there. Like I said, there's still, at least for me, enough of logical stuff present for me to say Devil's Hole, interesting name. Infinity Cave, interesting name. But I feel like I'm leaning kind of more towards this just being a natural phenomenon and not necessarily anything spooky happening.
I mean, I don't know. Like we said, we don't know truly how deep the Devil's Hole goes. It really, I mean, could it be 930 feet? Sure, maybe. Could it be further? Maybe. What happened to those boys Who knows? Why is there tsunamis coming out of this thing? Why is all this happening? Why is the government closed it off? Is it truly for a fish? Could Charles Manson be thinking the right thing and that there could be a portal to hell?
You
Could
know,
there be a giant with its babies down there?
so I don't know how much research you're able to do on this, but these water babies, these or whatever is down there, what exactly did the Native Americans think? Like, are these part of their gods, their pantheon, or are these like just creatures?
Well, first off, you got to understand that um first off, you got to understand that Native Americans didn't have gods like we think of, like with Greeks and Egyptians. They more had spirits and that sort of thought.
Sure.
Um,
Are these
let's
spirits
see.
worshipped, or were these like spirits that they feared? I guess I'm trying to understand what they were thinking about when they're looking at the Devil's Hole.
I think it's more like kind of like like when we talk about like the Thunderbird, or we talk about the
Oh,
Skinwalker, or we talk about the Wendigo. Like these are Native American folklore. These spirits, these stories. They're kind of, I guess, to ward off, to keep kind of be fearful of them. I don't think they. I'm probably some Native Americans probably gonna be on this like, no, we did or whatever. But uh,
sure.
here I got the Mojave Project. I got some information on a little bit. So there's something called the Mojave Project, and it's an experimental transmedia documentary by Kim Stringfellow, who's kind of exploring the physical, geological, and cultural landscape of the Mojave Desert.
Sure.
Um, this is from PBS, by the way. On June 20th, they talk about the four high school buddies who disappeared. Um, let's see. I'm just trying to look through this to see if I can find anything about it.
Yeah, no worries, man. Do what you need to do.
Yeah, because here's the article about it. Um, Yep, here we go. More than 9,000 years ago, the Nevada spring culture began their occupation in the Ash Meadows area. It was part of the southern Patu branch of the Shoshone, ancestors of contemporary Timbisha people. Cultural significance of Devil's Hole for them was apparent. Tales arose warning children of water babies who would surface and swallow them if they dared to remain in the pool too long.
Man, absolutely wild.
Other legends suggest that Tesoa Epotes, a legendary malevolent giant who dwelled at the mountain springs and caves, would snatch and devour unwary victims.
So basically, don't uh don't mess with the Devil's Hole. Which why anybody would want to do that in the
I
first place?
mean, I mean, so that's like the question is like I said. So we have these divers that did disappear. We have this guy who's gone down there. You know, who knows? I mean, could it be so deep that it's bottomless? Could it just be a gigantic subterranean lake that's underground? Um, or could it be that there's a giant down there that's gonna drag you to hell, or there babies that are gonna come up and grab you? Was Charles Manson right? And could there have been a portal to hell down there, or a portal to the underworld? But I'll tell you what, our ChatGPT story kind of goes into some of those theories.
All right, yeah, no, I'm
So, anything before I go into ChatGPT?
uh don't peg the devil, guys. Don't peg the devil. All right, I had to say it. I had to say it at least once. So,
That should be on a T-shirt. All
uh,
right.
with that imagery in your mind now, let's go to the ChatGPT
Okay. All
story.
right. So, as you guys know, my ChatGPT stories are kind of following their own little path now. So, this one's called Episode 3: The Pit Where Angels Drown, The Devil's Hole. Hell ain't always fire. Sometimes it's silence. Will. You ever hear the desert breathe? Not like the wind, not like sand in your teeth. I mean silence. So deep it starts to feel like pressure in your ears, like something's watching, and the heat itself is alive. That's what Death Valley feels like. And Devil's Hole, that's its eye. We came out here on a tip from a contact named Madison Pierce, a geologist turned whistleblower who claimed something was sealed down there. Not just dangerous, intelligent. She left a voicemail. Shaky voice, panic in her breath. They're watching it. Feds, rangers, but it's not geothermal. It's alive. You need to see it before they erase everything. That was 2 days ago. The next day, Madison was gone. Missing. No body, no vehicle, just her ID found near the fence around Devil's Hole. The hole itself is inside a steel cage guarded 24/7 by federal agents and signs that scream no entry. But it's not just about protecting endangered pupfish. It's about what's under them. We set up base at a motel in Amargosa. One gas station, one bar, all heat, dirt, and side eyes. That night, a local named Dwayne sat beside us and muttered, "My cousin dove it once. 1965. He said there's something under the water. A space that shouldn't be. Heard voices echoing up the shaft. Came back up speaking a language he never knew. Killed himself a week later." Sahil didn't touch his beer. That sounds less like science and more like spiritual warfare. I nodded, and we go unarmed. We hiked out on a moonless sky. Federal patrol circled the area, but we cut around the dunes, camo covered and silent. 2:37 a.m. No wind. Sahil hesitated at the edge of the fence. I feel like we shouldn't be here. I looked at the water and glowed faintly in the dark. Still, clear, bottomless. We've already crossed the line. The plan was simple. I'd descend on a military grade rappel line into the upper cavern chamber. No scuba, just dry suit, rope, helmet cam, and emergency oxygen. Sahil monitored from the surface, earpiece linked to the comms unit. The water was warm, too warm, and silent, like a church with no God. 30 feet down, my feet touched the narrow limestone shelf. I clicked the light on, and that's when I saw it. A door. Not wood, not metal, not stone. A shape. Geometric. Glowing faintly blue. Like it was part of the rock and not at the same time. And in the water next to it, a shoe. Madison's. Will Sahil crackled over the comm. We're getting some weird interference. Your vitals just spiked. I'm not alone, I whispered. Something moved in the water below. A ripple, a pool, then the comms cut. The cave filled with a sound like nothing I've heard. A cord, vibrating. Alien. The door began to shift. Not open, just breathe. I stared too long, and then I was somewhere else. For exactly 3 minutes and 41 seconds, the cam feed cut. When it returned, I was flat on my back on the cave shelf, nose bleeding, no memory, no air left. I climbed like a man chased by hell, broke the surface gasping. Sahil pulled me out, shouting, "What happened?" I didn't answer, because in my head, I could still hear it. A voice, not words, but it knew me. Back at the motel, we reviewed the footage. Most was static, except for one frame, a still image, no sound, of me standing before the glowing doorway. But not alone. Something stood behind me. Tall, thin, no face, just arms too long, watching. 2 days later, a black SUV waited at her motel. Two men in suits, no names. One held up a phone. On it, a photo of the door. Did you see this? Sawhill lied. Nope. The men nodded. Good. They left. We were gone by nightfall. Beyond the Campfire, episode 3, The Pit Where Angels Drown. People say the Devil's Hole is just a geothermal anomaly, a protected site for endangered fish. They're lying. There's something under the desert, something old, something that wants out. And I think it knows my name.
Wow, that I like the Men in Black at the end. It's like,
I know,
oh,
right? Just like their little nod to him.
I like when we reference old episodes and we see some of the things we've talked about before come up again. So yeah, it's it's cool to see them pop up.
Yeah, I liked having them pop. And it made sense for them to pop up too, because it was kind of like the government was like, "Oh, you should have seen what you saw down there." And it's like,
Right.
okay,
I like that first person point of view that you had.
yeah, I think with all my stories, from what I've seen, like from what I've understood from my ChatGPT stories, they are told from like my point of view.
Okay.
It's not like, oh, Will and Steven did this. It's like me and Steven,
Yeah,
like
mine might have been a third person point of view. So it's like there's a narrator and he's talking about what you and me are doing, but it's not necessarily me narrating it.
yeah.
But
I think I like that too, the way it does it, because like with mine, it makes it feel more personal.
sure.
It doesn't make it feel like a story. It makes it feel like this was our actual encounter.
Right,
You
right.
know?
And from there we can I don't know, see what else happens.
Yeah. But yeah, there it is. That's the Devil's Hole, bottomless pit, and then the and Death Valley. The government's closed off, and they won't let us in.
Sure, sure. So
So I mean, yeah. So could it be a portal to hell? Could it be Native American folklore? Could it just be a gigantic lake underground that we just cannot fully comprehend? Who knows?
who knows, man? Who knows? So alrighty. Well,
All right.
I think that'll do it for that one. Cool. Thank you guys for joining in. And tune in next week as we travel to tune in to find out.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. That's right. I think I can't say that much yet. So yeah, we'll
It's mystery.
yeah, if any of our Oklahoma friends are listening, yeah, that one's gonna hit a little close to home. So be sure to tune in next week.
And yeah, be careful when you're diving the Devil's Hole.